this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to One Thing Trump Did, available exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and as you know, if you're a regular listener, each week on this show, we pick just one thing coming out of the Trump White House to focus on and break it down in a nonpartisan way with someone who knows what they're talking about. And we had our pick of the litter this week, but we have decided we're going to be taking sort of a trip to the dentist's office because our one thing is the effort by Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to discourage localities from adding fluoride to drinking water, which has been done for decades across this country. Kennedy believes fluoride is linked to negative health effects and has ordered the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to stop recommending that fluoride be added to drinking water. Here are some of his thoughts on that from an interview with the New York Sun last year.
I think fluoride is a poison. If a fluoride truck crashes on the highway, they have to clear the highway for miles around, and people come in Tyvek suits and respirators and gloves. It's a toxic byproduct of certain chemical process and oil industry process. And for many years, those industries, it was costing them thousands of dollars per drum to get rid of them. And then they came up with the idea, why don't we put it in the water supply?
Well, RFK Jr. is now perhaps the most powerful person in healthcare as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So let's talk about this with Dr. Omer Awan, who's a senior contributor for Forbes and practicing radiologist physician in Baltimore. He writes about issues in healthcare and public health. Dr. Awan, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.
Well, and let's just first of all start with the basics. What is fluoride?
Well, fluoride is a mineral, and it's a mineral that's been used for all sorts of things. We have fluoride in some of our foods, so things like seafood, grapes, raisins, for example. All these things have fluoride, and we do consume a certain amount of fluoride in our natural diet. How it comes in with oral health is that a lot of toothpaste carry fluoride, and when you brush your teeth, you're adding fluoride because that helps stabilize some of your teeth. It prevents acid from kind of destroying your teeth and resulting in tooth decay. So it's become a important topic now with Secretary Kennedy because he's talking about fluoride and how that could potentially impact health and public health.
And it actually appears naturally in some water supplies, right?
It does appear in some water supplies, but there has been a move to add fluoride in certain water supplies. So, United States introduced fluoride in 1945, and then they started to recommend it. The United States Service recommended it in 1962 because they believe that fluoride can significantly reduce the risk of cavities and tooth decay, essentially, and it in low concentrations. So that's how it sort of started, and it's been in the public water supply for decades now, obviously, for over 50, 70 years.
Is there anything else that you can think of that we do that with, that we add something to the water supply to help us out with the various health issues?
Not that I'm aware of. We certainly do it for certain foods, preservatives, and things like that. But in terms of water, different water is different. They have certain minerals, certain chemicals in them, but fluoride really does have certain health benefits when used appropriately.
And why did the U.S. and the other countries, because there are a number of other countries around the world, why did they start adding it in the first place? Somebody came up with this idea, this is actually useful. Let's just start putting it into the water supply. I'm sure nobody will be angry.
Well, it's cost effective, Jeremy, because it'll prevent cavities, and we're talking about billions of dollars that can be saved from dental procedures, visits to the dental office. According to the American Dental Association, fluoride reduces the risk of tooth decay and cavities by 25%, and that's true for both children and adults. It's not just a pediatric entity here. We're talking about even for people like myself and you. It really has a profound effect when used appropriately and when used in certain concentrations in water.
So it's only added to the water in a couple dozen countries around the world. Why have others decided they don't want it in there?
Well, one is awareness. Not everyone truly understands the benefits of fluoride. And also there is conflicting research to some extent when we consider, what fluoride would really do, what concentrations are optimal for fluoride. And because of that, and because of all the body of evidence and the studies that show different things, quite frankly, some countries have been reluctant to add fluoride in water.
Now, you mentioned early on that in the right amounts, it's very helpful. If it's too much, it is a problem. And this is the study that RFK and others have been pointing to, is it says, this can have negative effects on people, but the study looked at it at like twice the amount that you're supposed to have in the water supply. What can you tell us, just as a nonpartisan expert on this, about the potential negative effects of fluoride if it's too much?
Yeah, and that's exactly what you said is exactly right, Jeremy. I mean, if you have certain studies, and I think what RFK is talking about, he looked at a study that was published by the National Toxicology Program, which showed that if you have fluoride in certain amounts, so if it's more than 1.5 milligrams per liter, then that can result with moderate confidence of patients to have lower IQ levels, children to have lower IQ levels. So that's at 1.5 to 2 milligrams per liter. That's the amount of concentration of fluoride that is potentially problematic. So with moderate confidence, not with great confidence, but with moderate confidence. We also know, and it's a fact, in science, that too much fluoride can cause other issues. So for example, when concentrations are at about 2 milligrams per liter, it can result in something called dental fluorosis, which means that you can get discoloration of the teeth. You can start to get white flecks in your teeth. You can get brown discoloration. And yes, that is treatable. Dentists can do certain procedures to remove that, but that is a major problem. And then at even higher concentrations, like 4 milligrams per liter and even up to 10 milligrams per liter, according to some studies, you can get something called skeletal fluorosis, which is when you start to have, bony deformities. You can get arthritis, joint stiffness, increased risk for fractures, and that may not be reversible. So that's an important consideration. You talked about some of the other countries. Some countries have much higher concentrations of fluoride than ours. Ours is set at 0.7 milligrams per liter, which is, much lower than the threshold that there are problems with.
But is there any evidence that any of those things have happened just in the normal course of business in the U.S. with the amount of fluoride that we're putting in the water supply?
No, there's not, honestly, because we regulate the water supply very well and very effectively. We regulate it at a concentration of 0.7 milligrams per liter. That's what public health agencies have determined to be a healthy and safe concentration. And, there have been decades of research that show that at this low concentration, we don't have negative health effects. And in fact, it's extremely productive and successful at decreasing the risk of tooth decay, decreasing the risk of cavities, and it saves us billions of dollars with respect to dental procedures, dental health visits. So there has not been evidence to show that at the concentrations that currently exist, that it can have negative health effects. And, we are not seeing these, or there haven't been studies that really show that, there is a direct causation with how much fluoride there is in water currently and low IQs or mental acuity. There are no studies that currently show that that I'm aware of, or, and I don't believe they exist.
Well, and why is tooth decay and the effects of tooth decay such a problem that we've decided to do this? Like, we're not adding in something into the water supply that would help us with heart disease, which is also very expensive, or cancer or things like that. Why tooth decay, do you think, gets this status as something that we across the country in locality after locality have decided, let's put the fluoride in the water?
Well, it's an interesting question, Jeremy. And I think that it's an easy fix, right? It's an easy way to manage a major public health problem and have a major impact. I mean, there have been studies that show that for every $1 that's invested in fluoride, you're saving $38 in dental procedures. I mean, that's a big deal when you consider how many, cavities that you're going to avoid. And also, it's important because it promotes health equity. And what I mean by that is that there are a lot of communities in America that otherwise don't have access to fluoride. And what I mean by that is that there's rural areas where they don't have access to going to a dentist. There are people that can't, believe it or not, that can't afford toothpaste. I mean, me and you, we have the luxury to, wake up every morning, brush our teeth, and we don't think twice about it. But there are people that literally don't. And when they're able to have fluoridated water, that sort of acts as a protection for them from tooth decay. So it's a very easy fix, and it's a very cost-effective approach for, affecting a major public health issue. And, some people have hailed this as, one of the top 10 public health breakthroughs in our century.
Yeah. I just on that point, I remember after college, I was moving around a bunch for a few years with different jobs, and I didn't get a dentist after college for a few years. And when I finally did go to the dentist in New York City, I had 3 cavities. He filled one of them, filled another, and then he started to fill the third one. And he said, this is so deep that you're going to have to get a root canal right now. He goes, I can either do it myself or I can anesthetize you, and you're going to walk over to 57th Street, and there's a place that all they do is root canals. And I had to go get a root canal. And I never, ever neglected going to the dentist again. I go every 6 months for that checkup because it does matter.
Good for you.
If you wait, it causes problems.
It absolutely does. I've been pretty good going every 6 months, but the times that I slip, I pay the price, and right. I totally feel you.
Well, stay with us because we're going to talk about how some states have already started to roll back the use of fluoride in water supplies. One thing Trump did with Dr. Omer Awan. We'll be right back.
Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle. From beautiful northern Italy. With very special guests. Every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
You see it instantly. It's Cold Water Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to One Thing Trump Did, exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson. This episode, we're talking about fluoride in our drinking water and efforts by the Trump administration to remove it, or at least stop adding it. I'm joined by public health expert, Dr. Omer Awan. So, Dr. Awan, Utah has just banned fluoride in drinking water. The Republican governor there, Spencer Cox. Florida has done it too. That's Ron DeSantis, also Republican. What do you think of that? These states that are moving forward, not just saying we're not recommending it, but actually banning it.
I think it's going to have devastating consequences, Jeremy. I really do. I think that we need fluoride to prevent cavities. There are many individuals who don't have access to toothpaste. They don't have access to fluoride, and it's going to cost Florida and Utah a lot of money. Believe me. I mean, maybe not now, but in 10 years or so, you're going to start to see that they're going to be spending a numerous amount of money treating these cavities. It is really a cost-effective plan to have a small amount or a small concentration of fluoride in water as exists in the majority of the United States. So the evidence really isn't there. You know, we want to make decisions based on evidence and evidence-based principles. And, you know, the evidence shows that at 0.7 milligrams per liter or less, the benefits greatly outweigh the risks for fluoride.
It does show, though, that this movement goes well beyond RFK Jr. There's something going on out in the world that is making it politically reasonable for politicians, at least on the Republican side, to say, let's get rid of fluoride. This will be a popular thing for me to do. What do you think that's about?
It goes deeper than science, Jeremy. I mean, we're talking about politicization of science and healthcare. You know, the same is happening with vaccines, right? I mean, we're starting to see that people don't want to get vaccines, even though the science shows and proves that vaccines decrease the risk of death, hospitalization, severe illness, but people are concerned. And you started to see this during the COVID-19 pandemic when, you know, vaccines were politicized depending on what, you know, party you were, Republican or Democrat. They promoted vaccines or dissuade vaccines. And then people started to get very skeptical of them. And then when you start to have a lot of people promoting things on social media, a lot of influencers that are going against it, it gives people pause and it gives people fear to do these things. And I think the same is happening here with fluoride in water. When you have someone of the caliber of RFK, I mean, he's, as you said, the most influential person in health right now. He's the most powerful person, certainly in health. If he is, you know, speaking out against it, I mean, people are going to listen. I mean, he has a good following, right? I mean, the Maha movement is a very big movement here in America. I mean, there are there's like Maha moms that like swear by him and do whatever he says, right? So, you know, he's going to have a following and it's going to cause consequences. But I think it's because of politicization, misinformation, all these things sort of contribute to, some of these movements that we're seeing.
Is there anything that you can do to prevent that? People like you can do to prevent that from taking hold? I mean, is there a need for influencers? Is there a need for, young people who are out there talking about how great fluoride is on short YouTube clips and TikTok videos?
I mean, that's been my mission, Jeremy. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, the reason why I write for Forbes is to prevent and curb misinformation. The reason why I have a YouTube channel where I'm posting videos is to curb misinformation. The reason why I like to come on the media on, CNN or MSNBC, News Nation, whatever it may be, is to educate the public about these important things, because I feel that even my friends, in my circle of friends, there are people that say they're not getting vaccines. They're not going to get vaccinated. I mean, I'm talking about my close friends who have this feeling. I mean, it's not just, we think about it and we're like, oh, there's these anti-vaxxers who live, in no man's land in America. That's not true. I mean, this is pervasive even in our communities, even amongst our friends. So there is a lot of misinformation out there. I have made it somewhat my calling to some extent. And I think other physicians and other people who understand science, understand public health, need to speak out. And they have to be very transparent about what the evidence shows, kind of in a nonpartisan way, as you alluded to at the beginning of this show.
Are there other ways to protect our oral health in the way that fluoride does?
Well, you can watch your diet, obviously, certain foods. If you avoid, acid type foods that promote bacteria in your, teeth, that can then break down foods. Soda can certainly have that effect on you. Certain other foods and drink can have that effect on you. But it's just such an easy fix. And that's why it's been recommended. And it doesn't, even if you eat all these things or drink all these things, it adds sort of an extra layer of protection. And it's very easy to do. And it's very easy to implement. And that's why a lot of lawmakers and policymakers and health professionals have been advocates for, low concentrations of fluoride in water.
For somebody that's listening to this right now in the state of Utah or in the state of Florida, or in another state where they're thinking about banning fluoride in water, is there anything that they can do themselves to try to make up for it? If they say, I actually want fluoride in my water for my kids, for myself, but I don't want to leave where I live to get it.
Well, make sure you brush your teeth twice a day. that's the first thing that I would say, because toothpaste does have fluoride, and that can be sufficient potentially to decrease your risk of cavities. If you're flossing and you're maintaining good oral health and oral hygiene, I think all of those things will help mitigate the deleterious effects or the negative effects of not having fluoride, or to compensate for that. But that's what you have to do. And to make sure that you visit your dentist, to get regular dental cleanings, every 6 months. I think those things will really help. But again, we're talking about access. I mean, people like myself and you have the luxury of going to a dentist every, 6 months. Not everyone does. And certainly not everyone in Utah and not everyone in Florida will be able to do that.
Yeah. Let's say hypothetically that a national ban on fluoride is next. Then what? How do you see that playing out in this country? Just a lot more money spent on oral care and health issues in the next 10 years?
It will be devastating, Jeremy. It's going to be devastating if that happens. And quite frankly, I fear that that's where we're heading. 2 states have already done it. RFK has been very, he tweeted that it was going to be the first thing that he did. Remember in November when he was, when President Trump won and, RFK was being picked to be the secretary of the HHS, it was literally one of the first things that he tweeted, that he's going to take fluoride out of public water system. So I think this is part of his agenda. It's part of what he really wants to do and what he really wants to see happen. So I think we are heading that way, and we have to find creative solutions. We have to find ways to think outside the box, potentially to, decrease tooth decay that is going to invariably happen. We have to find creative and innovative ways to help underserved populations so that they're not feeling the brunt of this, because they will feel the brunt of this. This is going to be a problem of, low-income individuals, minorities, people living in areas that have low access. It may not affect, me or you, but it's going to affect a lot of Americans that don't have the resources. So it's going to be a problem.
So you mentioned vaccines, and obviously we're talking about fluoride. Is there something else that you're thinking about that could be next in this country that's something that we've just sort of taken for granted for all these years and decades that now the Trump administration may come after and could have really big effects for Americans when it comes to health?
Not that I'm aware of. I think his focus has really been on, listen, I mean, some of the things that he's doing is great. I'm not here to take sides, one way or the other. I think RFK and his stance on, food additives and, food coloration, I think that's absolutely wonderful that he's going after that. And, he's trying to make our foods a little bit more healthy. And that's great. That's based off of evidence. There are clear studies that show that they have negative effects. But, a lot of his focus has really been on vaccines and fluoride. And especially the vaccine part. We're talking about fluoride in this episode, but the vaccine part can have way more detrimental effects on health. We're talking about disease outbreaks. We're talking about, things like measles and whooping cough that are already rising that are going to get worse, when people don't have access to vaccines. So I don't know what's next. Fluoride came out of the blue. I mean, it wasn't something that I expected, when RFK got, put into the Secretary of HHS. That just sort of came out of blue. He tweeted about it, and I was like, wow, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, like he really wants to get rid of this, because there wasn't a lot of rhetoric about it that was very visible. I mean, people have been debating fluoride for some time, but it didn't really, have a lot of visibility in the media and public discourse until, he came in.
That is Dr. Omer Awan, who's a senior contributor for Forbes and a practicing radiologist physician in Baltimore. Dr. Awan, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
And thanks to you for listening to One Thing Trump Did. It was produced by Harrison Patino. Our next middle episode is coming to your podcast feed later this week. We're going to be talking about the philosophical middle and what it means to take the middle way in these highly polarized times. Please write a review if you like this podcast. Our theme music was composed by Noah Haidu. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Talk to you soon.
You see it instantly. It's Cold Water Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969, Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I actually drive better when I'm high. It heightens my senses, calms me down. If anything, I'm more careful. Honestly, it just helps me focus.
That's probably what the driver who killed a 4-year-old told himself. And now he's in prison. You see, no matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.